Hello, and welcome to the next episode of the Live Your Spa Life show. Spa life is a lifestyle that accepts that accomplishment and harmony coexist. The spa in spa life, the SPA, is for seek power always, for us to stand in our power and do our bigger work in the world. I'm so thrilled to introduce to you my special guest today, Ankha Marza, who is an internationally renowned communication and public speaking coach. With uncommon insight, passion, and experience, she catalyzes inspiring and aspiring leaders in their most powerful self, voice, and charismatic presence.
Thank you. Glad to be here.
It's so wonderful to have you here. You know, when we talk about standing in your power, you hold such a powerful position with people who are in positions of power, where you are actually guiding them with their voice and how they are being in the world, particularly in their speeches and things that are happening. I have to just share with our listeners here, you know, who you are actually coaching so that they can get an idea of what an amazing woman that you are. You have coached royalty, presidents and vice presidents of countries and corporations, presidential candidates, first ladies, cabinet members, Fortune 500 executives, you know, people in global sales, youth and women leadership groups, CEOs, teams in U.S. and worldwide. You know, your space of who you coach is over 50 countries and 6 continents. Wow. I had to put that in there because the range of who you are speaking to and what you're doing, and so many people in the space of owning their voice, you know, even in positions of high level, they don't always know how to use that voice and how to bring that across. So I'd love for you to share, one, how you best support these high level people and how you got into this field.
Thank you. Thank you for that. And it sounds a little bit like a mouthful. You know, when I do it, it's not as grand as it sounds. You know, you show up and you work with that one person or group. And my intention is absolutely every single time to make sure that they achieve their goals. And those goals really vary. And when I don't work with CEOs, and actually there are some CEOs too, you'd be surprised. There are some CEOs as well who are really afraid of public speaking. And it's really interesting to notice that, because you think, okay, but then how do they get there? And actually one of the reasons they can still afford to do that is because they're there and because they can have other people do it for them. So I recently actually worked with somebody who is a CEO of a company, and it's not a huge company. It's not like $1 billion company. And he was one of the people I worked with that has been the most terrified. So when we met, he was telling me stories of not accepting to be speaking in public. And when he finally did, at what point, he was thinking as he was about to go on stage, what if I fake a heart attack? 911.
That's so wild. Well, it's funny that you actually say that, because they say that death is like the only greatest fear than public speaking. That is such a huge fear. And that's one of the reasons why I wanted to have this conversation, because there's so many people who have businesses that they want to get their voice in the world. They want to share their message. They're so passionate about what they do. But the idea of getting in front of people, and maybe it's just your team at work, you know, maybe it's a little bit easier, but there's still that fear factor that can happen when you are speaking to people. How do you help people move through that?
The most important part is that people understand that when they do speak in front of others, it's not about them. So every single time I show up and I work with a group, however small or large, it is every single time about the people in the audience. So I am there so that I can literally help them change their lives. I'm there to bring the most value that I can in the time that we have, whether it's a couple of hours or 2.5 days. And so when people shift and understand that the focus is not about, oh, it's about me. Oh, it's showtime. It's showtime, right? This idea that people have that now that I'm in front of 100 people or 1,000 people, all of a sudden, for some unknown reason, they decide that they need to be somebody else, right? So all of a sudden, who they've been their entire lives is not quite good enough. And so let me bring out this new persona of who I think should be showing up in front of people, because that's going to be the best person, not the real me. So forget about that. And just remember that you're showing up for them. You're showing up for your audience. So understand who your audience is every single time you speak. And then really bring the essence of you. Bring you. You know, Oscar Wilde has this beautiful quote that I absolutely love that says, "Be yourself, everyone else has been taken." And I completely could not agree with that more. So that's the simplest, those are the simplest and most basic pieces of advice that I would give right away, and just say, okay, remember it's not about you, and remember that you're there to bring value. Think of you a little bit, think of it, if you want an image in your head, think of you as it's Christmas time, and you're going on stage and you're about to give all these incredible gifts to people. And these gifts are going to literally change their life. So then, wouldn't you be so excited if you knew that that's exactly what your role is? And so then it becomes so much less about, oh, but what do I do with my hands? Which I get, oh, what do I do with my hands?
Right.
Just a ton of questions. And of course, there's so many things that go into how do I show up truly? I mean, other than, okay, be yourself. All right, okay, be myself. But what if I'm awkward?
Right. Yes.
My heart is beating out of my chest and I'm starting to sweat profusely. Or what if I freeze and I forget? I mean, there's so many things that can happen. So what I've just said is something that will absolutely be able to move you from a place of stuck. And there's always more that needs to be done and can be done.
Absolutely. Well, I love about just starting with being yourself, because sometimes we look at there's this bigger performance that's happening. And even though you are conveying maybe your story or aspects of you, but they want you, right? They want, that's why they're choosing you as their coach, as the person that they're learning from, is because what you're bringing to the table. And, what reminded me of this with you was that, before I was doing coaching and long before the show, I was a San Diego police officer and I worked uniform, but I also worked undercover. And so when I started into doing my own business, I didn't really share with people that much about my law enforcement background. I was kind of keeping that hidden, if you will, that aspect of me. And then when people would find out about it, they're like, why are you not sharing more about that? And, I was really bringing a lot of the lessons I learned from the street to help people to be able to speak, to be able to do their business, to do the things that they are doing in a way where I can coach people in ways that they didn't have, just like they seek out you because of your life experience. I mean, you have, as an international person coming to a country, this is one of the things we're going to talk about too, about standing into something that no one else can do it the exact way that you do it, and showing up. And you and I have had conversations around, competition, that there really isn't any when you're being yourself and showing up in that way. So, things that we think people might not want to hear about us are the very thing that they do because they want your exact experience. So I'd love to go into a little bit, because I know you'd mentioned that this was kind of a disempowering thing when you were an international student not being able to look for work. So how is it that you were able to kind of move through that, and how did that affect you at the time that you really kind of had to do an extra step, if you will, than people that were born here?
Yes, thank you for that. So your question to me was, think of a time when you felt disempowered.
Yes.
And the very first thing that came to me was exactly that. my first year is in this country. So I was born in Transylvania, and yes, that's a real place. It's true. I do get people who say, no, that's not real. And I'm like, I swear it's beyond the movies. It actually exists. There is a country, it's called Romania, and there's mountains, and it's really beautiful, actually. So when I first came here, and I was an international student. I was very, very blessed to have been awarded scholarships to Ivy League schools and other universities, and I ended up choosing Annenberg School for Communication, which is the #1 school of communication in the country and in the world. It happens to be at USC. And one of the things that I had a very hard time with was the fact that as an international student, you couldn't work other than the campus. And after that, as an international student, you had to find a job that would be willing to sponsor you for a particular work visa. And so I would sit there interview after interview and see people light up and get super excited about wanting to work with me. And then when I would bring in at the end the fact that I did need this H-1 visa sponsorship, which is not that big, it's a pretty small thing, but it's not that common, I would not hear back. And so in a way for me, legislation, so things that I feel are outside of my power to change, that's when I start feeling disempowered. And at the same time, what's really important to remember, and what got me through it, is regardless of what's happening in your life, regardless of circumstances, regardless of how badly it feels, whatever it is that you're going through, there are always, always, always so many things that we can be grateful for. Whether it's our health, our families, how do you impact people? The fact that I can have a conversation with somebody and help them change their lives, that is incredibly, incredibly meaningful to me. And I know that every single person has this. We do it with kids, we do it with loved ones, we do it with strangers. When you smile at somebody, it can be that simple. A smile in the grocery store could literally shift that person's day and maybe take them away from suicidal thoughts. I mean, you literally never ever know what the other person is feeling and what it feels like to be in their shoes. And so kindness to me is just love and kindness. Can you be as loving and as kind as you can? Because when you go in that space, that can bring you out of any kind of, again, and when I say any kind, if you're going through domestic abuse, for instance, yes, that won't change that. But what it can do is it can change the state that you're in. And if you change your state, you will every single time start making different decisions, because you will feel different, you will think different, and therefore your ability to see yourself in a different place, which is really what's necessary. What's necessary when you're terrified of public speaking, or when you're good at public speaking and you still want to do better, or when you are in a life situation that is really not a good one. So the very first thing that you have to do is to be able to see yourself in a different space. And in order to do so, you have got to source from within, because it truly never comes from without. It never comes from the outside. It is, and that's what being an extraordinary speaker and communicator is about as well. It's having that inner connection, and how do you then bridge from inner connection to outer expression in everything that you do, because you communicate through everything. It is not just the words. It is everything that you do and you are.
That is so, and I agree with you 100%. And it is so important to have all of these things in alignment. They say that when you walk in the door, within 3 seconds before you've even opened your mouth, there's all kinds of judgments, there's perceptions, there's all kinds of things that people come up with. And when you are aligned internally within yourself, that shows up, right? That shows up without you saying anything. And so I love that that is, a principle of yours. And what I'm sure you share this with all of your clients, because who they're being themselves really shows up way before they start. And when they get in touch with that intention about what they're doing and why, I know that there's a lot of intentionality in what you do, and that you're an avid learner, and there's things that you are always looking to improve. And so with that, I know there's ways that you design your life versus living by default. You're very intentional about some of the things that you are up to. Share with us some of those things that you design in your life that you're intentional about.
The most important piece for me, especially because I travel a lot and I work with a lot of people, and so there's a lot of energies around me, and there's a lot of people that need me to be very, very present with them. So most of my life really revolves around that. How present am I with everyone that shows up in my life? And in order for me to do that at the highest level and in the deepest way and in the most impactful way for them, what I need to do for myself is to create exactly that, to create that sense of presence with me. And that for me always starts with a place of quiet. So I must create space and silence in my life so that I can listen to myself, so that I can hear the messages that I need to hear in that moment. What do I need to be the most present with in this moment in time? And how do I do that? I can do that. I can do that anywhere. I can literally do that if I'm on a plane and I go into a meditation that can last anywhere between a minute to half an hour or however long it is. I am in nature. Spending time in nature is extremely important to me because I find it so very grounding and blissful and happy and miraculous. I mean, literally, life is so filled with miracles. You look at everything around you. You look at your body. You look at the relationships that you create. You look at everything that exists. There is such a sense of mystery and miracle to me, all of it. So taking the time to notice that is key for me. Reading and learning nonstop. It's just about nonstop for me, right?
Yeah.
I'm always coming from that place of every single person I meet, every single circumstance and context that shows up for me, every moment, it's about, I'm learning. Wow, okay. And what shift just happened within me? And how can I take that? How can I take what I just heard in this conversation? What can I take from that one word that I noticed on a page that I know I can take and create further through me so that it helps others shift?
Right.
So the other day, for instance, I was reading something and there was one thing, literally there was one word that jumped at me, and it was the word reverence. And I remembered how important that is in my life. And so living from a space of reverence and relating to everyone and everything from that space, for instance, is very important. So again, anything that shows up, what am I learning, and how do I show up in the absolute best way possible for me so that I can help others show up in the best way possible? It's, we have to remember that everything we learn and do, every memory that we have and that we create, they're all neurological pathways within us. So all of these things exist. Fear, by the way, if you're afraid of public speaking or whatever else you're afraid of, is literal and is also intangible, right? So it's literal in the sense of something may have happened in your life that triggered that. And so now your neurobiology is going, oh, I've got to get you ready so that you know what to do with this next time. But then what happens if you keep going back into that moment and if you keep bringing up that fear and you bring it up and you bring it up and you bring it up, then you literally keep deepening those neural pathways. And so then you start living from that place. Right. And that can happen with so many things. So watching the negative patterns that we have and being able to rewrite them is really, really key. Again, whether in public speaking, communication, or anything, learning a new language, how do I relate to my partner, anything that we do.
Right. It's so important to, really see what are the things that we're perpetuating. Like, are we perpetuating the positivity and the things that are working for us or the things that aren't? And I love when you were sharing about being in nature, because I think that is such an important element to your life to get reconnected with that. I actually had a fellow coach who had mentioned, because he does a lot of travel as well as you and I do, where he mentioned that first thing he does when he gets off a plane is put his feet in either dirt or the sand, because it actually resets your body to that time zone quicker than anything else that you can do. And it's such a huge, to have some of these nuances, is that nature it does literally ground us and to get us in the place of where we want to go and what we want to do. And I love to, talking about the nuance that I love that you're mentioning here is there's knowledge, which you and I love to do as far as being readers and getting more information, that everyone has something to share with us. There's knowledge, and then there's knowing, like what is that between us? And you can only get that knowing, that internal wisdom, when we create that space and that silence. And it's such an important thing that you're sharing about giving ourselves that space, especially when we're here to serve so many people and so much of our day is about giving to other people. We do need to restore ourselves and get back to a place so that we can give from a more full space and to have that happen. So I love that you're incorporating that in you. And have you noticed that in some of your international travels is that nature really helps you get present to that space?
Absolutely. And I could not agree more with the person that you spoke with, because having your feet on the ground. So it's really important for us to have bare skin contact with anything in nature, whether it's the sand, whether it's earth, whether it's a tree, plants, whatever it is, because it will literally, according to the science of earthing, and they have done so many studies with this, it will literally start rebalancing the energy in your field. It will start rebalancing your physiology. And so they've done studies where they've shown that athletes, very high-level athletes who train, they've had a control group who would train normally before competitions with their sneakers on, and then others who did it barefoot. The ones that did it barefoot had consistently an up to 30% improvement in their results. And that was the only difference. So yes, wherever I am, I try to be in nature as much as I can. It's obviously, sometimes there's more nature, sometimes there's less, because I'm also inside a lot. It's hard to teach groups outside. These corporate events are not really on the beach.
Right. Well, we have to be intentional about the environments that we create, and our environment is so important because, whatever is in our space, like I noticed the beautiful flowers in your space. Like to me, when you have beauty in your space, that just allows you it changes your physiology, how you're being and what you're doing. In fact, one of the things I love asking my guests is, what is your favorite room in your home and why?
Oh, interesting. Two, living room and bedroom, they both come to mind. So the bedroom feels really good because it feels really intimate, and it's the space where I can just go deeper within and, feel held, feel safe. And my living room because it has so much light. And I love the sun. It's incredibly important for me to have that connection. And so, for instance, I could never live in Seattle or in another place that has a lot of rain, because that just influences how I feel and how I think so much. I love big open spaces as well. So, and flowers, I have flowers all the time in my home. They make me so happy. And quantum physics has proven this. So everything in this universe has a certain vibratory signature, whether it's human beings, whether it's trees, whether it's animals, whether it's flowers. And so I happen to feel that flowers are extremely special, and nature as well. And so, and you feel this with people. I mean, you know, your audience knows this. Every single one of you listening, you know this. You sometimes meet people and you go, wow, such an amazing person. I can't wait to see them again. And you don't want that plane ride or party to end because you want to keep interacting with them. You feel so good when you're around them. And then there are others, and it's the complete opposite. And it's literally like this energy vampire feel that you don't want to be with. And you're like, no, okay, I'll try to avoid that person. So I think it's that with everything. And so going back to the previous question, just being aware of what do you respond to? You know, what makes you feel good? And just go back into that, because maybe your way of being mindful, which really what silence is to me, your way of being mindful may be going to dance salsa, you know, or walking on the beach or boxing. What is it for you? Just find that place. Find the place with you that resonates really deeply, and then source from there. Every single time it doesn't feel good.
Mm-hmm. You know, it's so important to, you know, have this conversation around energy, because whether it's people or our space that we have or what's in our space, you know, one of the things that I really utilize, because I've been in thousands of homes when I was in a police department, right? I mean, I saw all kinds of things, so many different, you know, spectrums of life that I got to see. And in part of that, I coined something called the clutter to drama ratio, that the more clutter you had in your space, the more drama you had in your life, the things that weren't working. You could also have a space that looks like everything's fine, but you could walk through it and maybe it's a piece of art on the wall, or maybe there's something in the space that just drains your energy and takes you away from that. So you want to be mindful. One of the quotes I heard, you know, many years ago was that whatever you own owns you in time and energy and what you have. So we want to be intentional about what we're allowing into our space. And so this is such an important aspect, you know, whether we're talking about getting on stages and speaking, or how we're being in business, or how we are in relationships. You know, what are we bringing into our life? And are we having those clear boundaries to really create that and to move forward in what we're doing? And I know that that's part of what you help people create in their life, is to get really clear on who they are and having that come through. So I would love for you to share more about, you know, how you work with people and what kind of results that they're getting.
It's the first thing that comes to mind is that it's so fun. I mean, when you're the client and you're going through it, it may not be the most fun thing you've ever done for a little bit. It gets really, really fun, right? And the reason it may not be the most fun at the beginning is because what we're working on are patterns that you have had for a lifetime. Every single time somebody shows up, they bring all of them. They bring their family, they bring their lineage, they bring the work environment, the school, everyone and everything shows up. And then what we do is, so I film people every single time they speak, when I work one-on-one and when I do groups as well, because it's really important for you to be able to then see yourself. It's one thing for me to give you feedback, and it's another thing for me to give you feedback when you've really seen you, not seen you as you think you are, but You're going to watch that video. I always do it on their own phone so that there's no concern at all about who the video is being to. And so what you have to remember is that these communication patterns are formed throughout our lives, ever since we're little. How your mother spoke, how your father spoke, how everyone, it all shows up. The things that you've been told, especially in those first 7 years, when our brains are in that hypnotic state where we literally, and the reason it's because we have to learn a lot, right? We have to learn how to be in the world. But that also means that there's no censoring. So you're going to keep carrying that through your life and the stories of who you are. And so then we start working together, and we always look at what are the things that you are already doing that are amazing or really good. Because there's always something that's good.
Right.
And then we move into, because it's really important for people to have that validation, right? And to know, oh, okay, thank goodness, it's not all horrible or...
I love that distinction, right? Because it's not all bad, right? You're doing something good, so you want to bring that in. It's
so important. And it allows you to connect with that person. And it puts them in a state of, in a space of safety and trust, because they go, oh, okay, she sees me. So now I can start feeling safe.
Yeah.
And then we go into, now what are the things that you can do even better?
Mm.
Never about, oh God, this is horrible, I can't believe No, it's always about what can we do better? And then how? That's really, really important. Because people say, and I'm sure you've heard this, practice makes perfect, right? Have you heard it?
I've heard it. However, I know there's an upside to this.
Exactly. Because if you're going to keep practicing in the same way that you have been, there's no way you're going to get better. All you're going to do is you're literally going to deepen those neural pathways that you didn't want to set in the first place.
Right. The bad habits.
Exactly. And so what you want to do, and pick your coach. Anyone, just pick somebody that is an expert. That is the most important thing. Make sure they truly are an expert in their field. I say this to parents who have kids, and I always say, get the best tutors, the best mentors, the best instructors for your kids, because that's how they're going to start learning how to be their very best selves. If you're going to get second best, it's just not going to be good enough. Because that's what your child will learn. Why would you want that? So just get the best that you can get. Right? And so then somebody comes in, whether it's me or somebody else, the most amazing tennis instructor ever, and they start showing you the habits. They start breaking things down and going, okay, so this is what's amazing, this is what's not so amazing, and this is how we get you to where you need to be. And when you start seeing it and hearing it and feeling it, you practice it. You practice it, but you practice it from that place of, oh, now I'm starting to know what I need to do. Because we all, literally every single one of us, there is not one person in the universe, not one, who doesn't have those places of unconscious incompetence. We first start with, I don't know what I don't know. Whether it's public speaking or something else, it doesn't matter. Or how you communicate with your employees, or with your spouse, your significant other, your kids. Why are there issues there? There's reasons why, right? So it starts with unconscious incompetence. It moves into conscious competence. So hopefully you have now met somebody who happens to be an expert in their field, or you have created a context in your life where you now become aware of what those things are. And then the next stage in learning anything, the next stage is you move into conscious competence. you hopefully will have somebody who's brilliant at what they do and can show you how do you move from unconscious conscious to that place of conscious competence now, right? So now I know what I'm doing. So then when they start practicing, and I see this with my clients all the time, and it's a little bit of, if you've ever learned how to drive a stick shift, right? At the beginning, it can get so confusing. You go, what? I have to do this and that and that. It's the same thing when I work with people, right? Hold on a second. So I have to do this and that. I have to pay attention to this. I have to, find the seat in the story of my soul. And then you want me to, have my body language in this way and my voice and to have that and to vary and to, what? And so that's why it's also a gradual process, right? So
right.
In 5 minutes, I can help move somebody from wherever they are into better.
Right.
Now, if they really want to become their best self, it's always going to take more than that, because as they move through that place of conscious competence, right? And I literally see their brains rewiring as speaking. At some point, you're going to get to the stage of mastery.
Yes.
And that stage of mastery is that place of unconscious competence, where you no longer have to think and have to mechanically, literally rewire your brain and the neurobiology of who you are.
Mm-hmm.
And it's all about, it's never about making somebody into who they're not, just because the Bible of public speaking says the Bible of the most charismatic communicators.
Right. The audiences are so savvy. They see that.
Of course. So to me, it's all about, how do I help that one person or the 100 people in the room come into a place of deeper authenticity, deeper knowing, deeper awareness of who they are and how they're showing up, and what is it that you really want to share? How do you want to be known?
Yeah, so important. This is so huge. And I love the path, because really those 4 steps are for everything that we do in our life, and that whole not knowing what we don't know, that is the first step, and being able to look at what, you want to do. And, I can't believe how quickly our time has gone by here, because I know that our listeners are going to want to connect with you. How can they do that? How can they stay in touch with you?
They can email me. So my website is speakyourpower.com, and they'll find my contact information there. They can email me. They can also, I think I even have my phone number there. And I'm terrible about social media. I have finally created an Instagram account a few weeks ago. I still don't know how to use it. And so on Instagram, I'm at Speak Your Power. You can follow me, hopefully very shortly. I'm going to learn what to do with it. And if not, you can just connect with me on Facebook as well, Ankha Marza, Ankha. And you can email me at ankha@speakyourpower.com.
Perfect. And we will put this all in the notes. And this is, this is part of that getting out of your comfort zone, right? Doing something new and stepping out. So you're going to have this great piece of social media that you'll be able to utilize, and there'll be new ways for people to connect with you. And I just want to thank you so much for your beautiful presence and for your wisdom and for what you're doing in the world. And I just want to thank you for being on the show.
Thank you so much. It's been a pleasure spending this time with you. And my hope and my wish is that it will help at least one person change their lives into even more amazing, into that place of, what is my best self? How do I show up in the most present and powerful way?
Wonderful. Thank you. Thank you so much. And thank you to our listeners who've taken their most precious resource, which is their time, to be here with us today and to connect with us. There also in the show notes will be a free gift from me, which is the Life Reset Quiz. And if you go to liferesetquiz.com, you'll have some awareness, because we've talked here about awareness. When you have that awareness, you can make shifts and change. What are you doing well in, and where do you need to have more support? That's where you are able to begin. That takes just a couple moments, and that resource will be in there for you for Life Reset Quiz. And community is so huge. We want to get the word out to have these kind of conversations. How can you be more comfortable in speaking up with your truth and standing in your power? Please, subscribe to this and share this in the community. Please put in any of the comments, any questions you may have. We would love to be able to support you in any way that we can. And we just want to, get that word out, to stand in your power and to be the most powerful being that you are here to be. So until we connect again, live your spa life. Bye for now. Bye-bye.